So thank you, everyone. Thank you. My name is Aida Jenis. I'm chair of the Board of Library Trustees. And on behalf of the trustees and the Friends, we'd like to thank all of you for being here today as we introduce and welcome Chris Lindquist as our next library director. Thank you to everybody who has been able to make it out. It's a lovely day, and we know there are many other things happening as well. Chris joined us on September 5th, and since 1989 has had a professional and executive experience as a librarian and director in public libraries. He received his Master of Library and Information Science degree at the Columbia University School of Library Service. His executive experience includes leading several libraries in Massachusetts, the Sturgis Library in Barnstable, the Westfield Athenaeum in Westfield, the Northborough Free Library in Northborough, and the Farmington Libraries in Farmington, Connecticut. Before becoming a library director, Chris had positions as a reference and media services librarian and a reference and young adult librarian. He also started his library career as a page in the Lucy Robbins Wells Library in Newington, Connecticut. And I understand that his brother is here with us today and was instrumental in Chris getting his first job as a library page. Thank you. So, with Chris's deep managerial experience at these different libraries, several of which have historic buildings, and with his appreciation for and interest in history, his collaborative management style, strong communication skills, and his very approachable and outgoing nature, we see Chris engaging and bringing forth new perspectives and energy to our staff and our public. We look forward to supporting Chris's work as he develops an innovative and inclusive vision for the Wayland Free Public Library. Thank you, and welcome to Chris.
Thank you so much for being here today. I was telling somebody earlier, I know the Patriots are playing at 4 o'clock today, so we'll make it brief, but I think probably most of you don't care if the Patriots are playing today, I'm sorry. This is a special day for me, and I have so many people to thank for supporting me and introducing me to the library and the community. First, I would like to thank my parents for instilling the love of reading and books in me at an early age. I'd also like to thank Susan, my partner in crime, who makes the most delicious cappuccino every morning, no matter how early. She's also our official photographer today. So Susan, thank you for taking photos, and how much are we paying you? I forgot. I would like to thank Aida and Leah and Meredith and the Friends, some of whom are here today, for all their efforts to make this day so special. And can we just take a moment to recognize Aida, whose dedication to this institution is beyond peer. Can we please recognize her? I've worked with some amazing board of trustees and some amazing chairs, and you are by far the most dedicated library board chair that I've ever worked with, so thank you so much for all you do. I'd also like to thank our amazing staff for being champions of intellectual freedom and for being so dedicated and so good at what they do. I look forward to immersing myself in all things Wayland. I already have the one card that opens all doors, and I'll have that. It's not a credit card, but I use it at just about any institution, at least public libraries. So I suspect my friends who may be here from Westfield have traveled the furthest. Westfield is known as the Whip City. Some of you may be familiar with that, because over 90% of the world's buggy whips were manufactured there. They're not bull whips, they're buggy whips. That's an important distinction. As an aside, when I was the director of the Westfield Athenaeum, the public library for the city of Westfield, I was invited to speak to the local Rotary Club. After my talk, with a straight face, the president of the club presented me with, yes, a buggy whip. It was a beautiful buggy whip, but all the same. Somewhat incredulous, I whispered, but my car is right out here in the parking lot. What mode of transportation did you think I got here? He would not be swayed. As I tossed the buggy whip in the backseat of my car, I realized I was born 150 years too late, which is kind of the theme of my remarks today. my guess is that when you're asked to speak to the Weston Wayland Rotary Club, they don't give you a buggy whip. Instead, I'm guessing they give you a copy of Walden or perhaps Civil Disobedience. Which brings me to Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau said, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." He also said, "Beware of all enterprises that require new clothes." When he wrote those words, Thoreau was in his early 30s, what many considered to be the prime of life. And Henry wondered why he didn't have many friends. While we're at it, can I see a show of hands? So how many think the pronunciation should be Thoreau? Okay. How many think it should be Thoreau? Okay. Well, about half of you are wrong. Thoreau wrote those words, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation," about 10 miles from where we're gathered today, around 1848. At the same time, the Wayland Free Library was established, making it one of the oldest, if not the oldest, publicly supported libraries in the Commonwealth. As many of you know, the library celebrated its 175th anniversary this year, and we have this beautiful booklet that's recently been printed on the occasion of the 175th anniversary. It is a history worthy of the Boston Public Library, which was also established in 1848, or the Free Library of Philadelphia, which was not established for another 40 years. Shameless plug. So MJ Wright, where is MJ? MJ, our local history librarian, will be giving a talk on October 24th. Is that? It's been postponed. I'm sorry. Late breaking news. Okay, we will post that information on our website. But MJ's going to be giving a talk at some point, date to be determined, MJ's discoveries in the library's local history collection. Right? That's correct. I hope you'll be able to attend that program once it's been scheduled. So why quote Thoreau? For me, he opens the door to history, specifically the history of New England, which has always been one of my lifelong passions. Speaking of libraries, Henry said, this is from one of his tomes, he said, "I've sometimes imagined a library, i.e. a collection of the works of true poets, philosophers, naturalists, etc., deposited not in a brick or marble edifice in a crowded and dusty city, guarded by cold-blooded and methodical officials and preyed on by bookworms." I don't think I'm a cold-blooded and methodical official, but nevertheless, in which you own no share and you are not entitled to, but rather far away in the depths of a primitive forest, perhaps like the ruins of Central America, where you can trace a series of crumbling alcoves, the older books protecting the most modern from the elements, partially buried by the luxuriance of nature, which the heroic student could reach only after adventures in the wilderness amid wild beasts and wild men. Thoreau had quite an imagination. That, to my imagination, seems a fitter place for these interesting relics, which owe no small part of their interest to their antiquity, and whose occasion is nature, than the well-preserved edifice with its well-preserved officials on the side of a city square. That sounds just like Thoreau. More terrible than lions and tigers, these Cerberuses. So much for Thoreau, or Thoreau. Now, here's what I know. Wayland was ahead of the curve in wanting to create a place that represented the townspeople's highest ideals, a place that endures, a place that celebrates early literacy and lifelong learning, art and music and poetry, literature and film, a place that celebrates ideas and imagination and intellectual freedom, a place that preserves local history, a place that helps preserve democracy during a time when our democratic ideals are under threat, a place that welcomes all. You've welcomed me, and for that I am deeply, deeply grateful. And just to bring Thoreau back to where he belongs as a uniquely New England type, who nevertheless found humor and wit in equal measure with natural observation, I'd like to read, with your approval, one of my favorite passages from my copy of Cape Cod, if you'll indulge me. It's one of my favorite passages. My brother Jim knows it well, probably by heart. "Before sunrise the next morning, they let us out again, and I ran over to the beach to see the sun come out of the ocean. The old woman of 84, Winters, was already out in the cold morning wind, bareheaded, tripping about like a young girl, and driving up the cow to milk. She got the breakfast with dispatch and without noise or hustle. And meanwhile, the old man resumed his stories, standing before us, who were sitting with his back to the chimney and ejecting his tobacco juice right and left into the fire behind him, without regard to the various dishes which were there preparing. At breakfast, we had eels, buttermilk cake, cold bread, green beans, donuts, and tea. The old man talked a steady stream, and when his wife told him he had better eat his breakfast, he said, "Don't hurry me. I've lived too long to be hurried." I ate of the applesauce and the donuts, which I thought had sustained the least detriment from the old man's shots. But my companion refused the applesauce and ate of the hot cake and green beans, which had appeared to him to occupy the safest part of the heart. But on comparing notes afterward, I told him that the buttermilk cake was particularly exposed, and I saw how it suffered repeatedly, and therefore I avoided it. But he declared that the applesauce was seriously injured and had therefore declined. So that's Thoreau, or Thoreau, if you will. And that's the Wellfleet oysterman from Cape Cod, again. Some of you may know that work. And now, if you'll allow me, I think I'll go out to my horse and buggy with my trusty buggy whip by my side and my trusty copy of Cape Cod and wander in the mid-19th century for a while. I hope you'll do the same. Thank you for coming.
Thank you once again. And please do, if you haven't already, sign a little card for Chris, giving him a little message about what you think about the library, what you'd like to see in the library. And the little booklet that we have, that's a complimentary booklet, one per family, please. And those are at the front desk, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.